Okay. So, just some basic points about the course and how we are going to have the sessions. So, every day you will have your sessions from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Mainly, we'll be covering front end and then Gen AI. In our sessions, I'll be sharing the attendance link at the end of each session for you to fill the attendance form, in which you can choose your name from a drop down that will be given in the form, and the link will get closed after 1 hour of sending it. So I'll also share today's attendance link, and then I'll demonstrate how you can fill the attendance form. Also, there are several modules in this course, and after each module, let's say after covering HTML, we'll have a quiz of HTML only, and we'll have it in an MCQ format. I'll also be sharing them as we'll move forward in the course with the modules that we will be covering. Then we are also going to have some hands-on projects along with each of the modules, in which you guys can basically build those projects on your own and get some hands-on experience so that you can get better understanding of how the modules, or let's say how those technologies are working. The sessions will get recorded, like today's sessions. Every session will get recorded, and you can get the recordings after 1 hour of the session. I'll be uploading the recordings and the material that we are going to use in each of the sessions. Materials can include doc files, HTML, or let's say any code files that we'll be building, along with some PPT format if we'll be using that in the sessions. So let me just share my screen. Today we'll be covering some basic topics to just lay the foundation of the course, and for all of you to get better understanding of how things actually work. Just let me know if my screen is visible to all of you.
It is present.
Okay. Also, in case if you have any kind of questions in between the sessions, or let's say while I'm explaining something, then you can type it in the chat box, and we can take those questions in between the session or at the end of the session, depending on the questions. So let's get started with today's topics. First, we'll be seeing what is a website. Then we'll move forward to understanding what is internet and how we actually see all the websites around the world. Then we'll understand the basic definitions of what is a full stack developer or what is a front end developer. Since this course is mainly focused on to the front end part, so we'll be focusing on a little bit more towards the front end technologies, and what are the basic job opportunities and the things around front end. So all of the things that I have told all of you, everything till now, is that clear to all of you about the sessions and how we are going to have them?
Yes.
Okay, so let's get started. So what is a website? Website, let me ask this question from all of you. How many of you are clear with the definition of what is a website? And in case any of you know the answer, you can also unmute yourself and tell the answer, so we can have a healthy discussion around the same thing. Can any of you describe what is a website according to you?
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Madhuri.
I think website is a collection of web pages, and it contains information about certain domain or some kind of specific information.
Yes, that's correct. So a website is basically a collection of some web pages. So let's say we go to this Airbnb website. So this Airbnb website is a collection of different kind of web pages. Web page is a single page which is dedicated to one specific topic. So this particular website will have a contact page which will be just dedicated to the contact details of the website, and let's say we also have an about page of the website, so that's one web page. So if I have to write it over here, I'll also share this document with all of you. So let's say our website is www.airbnb.com. Then inside of this, we have components called web pages. Web pages, which are individual dedicated pages, individual dedi- dedicated pages. For example, a contact page or an about us page. Let me just expand this. We can close this over here. And yeah. So a website is a collection of web pages which contains some kind of content regarding what the website is about. Let's say for this example, Airbnb, it contains different information about what are all the Airbnb farms available. Then each of the website is dedicated with a unique domain name. So this Airbnb that we are seeing over here, let me increase the font size. It's too much, I think. Yeah, so this www.airbnb.com is a domain name. Now, what is a domain name? A domain name, you can think of it as an address where you will find your website. So you can just correlate a domain name with the address of the website. Now, there is a whole lot of process that goes behind how we reach our website, which we'll be covering over here, how the website work. But as of now, just understand that a domain name is the address of a website where you can find that website. And most commonly, you can get different domain names on the internet. You might have heard of websites such as GoDaddy, which sells domain names for businesses and for individuals to host their websites on the internet. Now, most of these websites are powered with a web server depending on the complexity of the website. What is a web server? A web server, you can think of it as a box which contain all the related things for a website. That can be containing images, that can be containing different kind of content, or even login information. There can be separate databases which are connected to the web server for the website to collect your data. Let's say in this example, if we come over here and we'll click on sign up or login, then after that, it asks us some details. Now, these details, if we'll fill this, then it will go to the web server of this Airbnb website, and that web server will store your data in a database. So depending on the complexity of the website, you can have just the front end part or the back end part. Now, the front end and back end will come to what these both terms means. But as of now, just understand that websites are just collection of web pages which are hosted on internet with a domain name. And depending on the complexity of the website, they are either powered by a web server or they are just a simple template code. Is everything clear as of now?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's move to the second part. What is internet? So I think everyone here uses internet, like this call is also on the internet. So would any of you like to give an answer to what is internet? According to your understanding, you can just, give the answer. Any of you who would like to answer?
Ma'am, it is a
Ma'am,
connection
internet
between
to
servers and computers.
Yes, Madhuri, that's correct. Sohan, what was you saying?
I was gonna say it was a communication link. It's a type of communication done between two computers.
Yes,
So
that's
it can
also,
be done in different ways, and internet is one of the way.
yes,
It's
internet
a
is one
medium.
of yeah, that's also correct. So in earlier times when we used to had the condition of, let's say I want to share some kind of data with some other computer, then in that era what people used to do, we used to connect the devices by wired wired ways, or you can just assume it to be a wire connected between both of the devices for the files to get transferred. Now that eventually evolved over time, and then the internet came into the picture. It was first, started by USA. There was also a thing called intranet. You can search about it. I wait. So intranet is also a private network which is used inside an organization, and the open part of it, which is open for everyone to access, is called internet. The first thing that came into picture was internet, which was used by United States for its own military operations, and then later on they developed and evolved it over time, and then the internet came into the picture. So on a higher level, the internet is just a global network of devices which set up communications using a TCP protocol. So you guys are first year students, right? In which year are you guys studying? Okay, let me assume. So the internet is just a global network of devices which communicate over a TCP protocol. So there are different types of protocol. Protocol is nothing but just a set of rules that govern how we work on to things. So protocol you can assume as set of rules or instructions. Now, the global network is basically right now accessible to everyone, but previously it was very limited. If you remember, in 2010s or in 2000s, people used to just get 100 MB of data uh, onto their recharge plans and all, like before the Geo era. So right now it's very accessible. Global network, what does the term global network mean? So internet is the bridge which connects you from everything that is happening inside our world. We link computers, servers, phones, and all the smart appliances and devices that we have onto the internet so that they can communicate with each other, and also we can get some information by uh, searching anything onto the internet. Now there is one term as browser on which we search, like this Google is a web browser. So just to give you a little bit insight onto it, a web browser is the place where you search, and this web browser, with the help of your internet connection, gets you the information from any devices, any web servers around the world, since they are connected over the network of internet. Now, a network is again just multiple devices connected together. There are multiple types of networks. We'll dive deep into it if required, or let's say if you guys want to know more about networks in the upcoming sessions. But as of now, just understand that a network means multiple devices connected to each other. There are different types of network topologies. Like, this is just an overview. In case you would like to deep dive onto it, just let me know. So there is a term bus topology, then there is star topology, then there is a mesh also. So these are different kind of techniques by which we connect multiple devices and then transfer data between them. So again, just an overview. It is a global network which is publicly accessible. I'll write it over here, global network, which is also publicly accessible, and which just connects all the devices, all, or let's say as many devices as you want, connects devices across the world, and it also shares data. So this is a very high level definition of what is internet. Is this clear to all of you?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. So now coming on to what is internet, this is the overview of that. Now we were discussing how the websites are actually working, right? So let's say I come to my web browser, I come over here and I type something, let's say, which website should I type? Just suggest me one website that I can give an example of. Any websites you guys want to suggest? Or okay, cbit.ac.in. So let's say I come to this website. Now this is my web browser. Again, web browser is just the place from where you will search the whole internet and it will bring you some information. As soon as I type this address, this domain name into my web browser, what happens is the answer to how the websites work. So we'll go through the process. Let me come over here. I think I have it. Yeah. So as soon as I type the address, or let's say the domain name, into my web browser, for this example, let's say www.cbit.ac.in, then what it does, it connects to our internet. Now, how does it connect to our internet? So let me just demonstrate it to you over here. Let's say this is our web browser. Inside of this, I type www.cbit.ac.in. Now, as soon as I type this in my web browser, what it does, it gets connected to your router. So let's say this is your router inside of your home or inside of your hostel, wherever you are. So router, or let's say your internet providing device. It can also be your mobile data. That is also one way. Your internet providing device. Let me expand this over here. So it goes to your router or your internet providing devices. Then the router sends this address to your ISP. Now, what is an ISP? ISP is your internet service provider. It sends it to ISP. What is an ISP? ISP is your internet service provider. Now, what is this ISP? So, this is the service from where you get your internet. It can be your local ISP. If you're using mobile data, then in that case, it's your SIM, for example, Geo or Airtel. So, Geo or Airtel is providing you the internet. So, that becomes your ISP, which is just a service which distributes internet with some sort of price. For example, we pay for data in our recharge plans, right? So we pay for the internet that we use. Now, as soon as we type this address into our domain, this domain name into our web browser, it goes to the router, and then the router sends it to the nearest ISP or the ISP it is connected to. Then from here, this ISP is connected to the internet. So you can assume internet as this, long bridge sort of a thing from which your ISP is connected. Now, ISP, there are multiple ISPs throughout the world, even in your areas also. So all the ISPs gets connected to this internet. This is your internet. You can just assume it to be the backbone of the whole communication system. This is your internet, and your address or your request travels through your router to your ISP and then to your internet. Now, from this internet, somewhere around the world, you might be having a web server. Now, again, web server is what contains your website information. So you might be having a web server for this website, which upon receiving the request, let's say I type this address, then it went to the router, it went to the ISP. ISP sent it to the internet, and internet sends it to your web server. This whole thing of sending a request, or let's say sending your address, is generally termed as a request. So there are two things: there is a request and then there is a response. Your request is what you are requesting for as a resource. So here we are requesting for the website, and your response is whatever your web server responds to the internet back. It can be your website content, it can be your website data, anything. So this basically sends or brings the content of your website. As soon as you make this request, it travels through your router to your ISP and to your internet, and then it reaches the web server. Now this web server can be, conditioned onto how to give a response to a particular website, or let's say a particular request. As soon as the request reaches over here, it sends back some kind of data. So let me turn this around. It sends back some kind of data to your internet. This can be multiple files, or let's say any kind of data. So let's type over here. This can be files/data of your website. The internet receives your files and data and sends it to your ISP back. Let me turn this also. Sends it to your ISP. Your ISP again sends this to your router, and your router sends it back to your device or your web browser. And as soon as this process gets completed, you get this website or this home page landed onto your web browser. Now, this whole process happens in nanoseconds in the best case, and takes minutes to complete in worst case scenarios. But this is the whole process, how a website comes into your web browser, or how you are able to access the web browser. Now, there is one more thing. As soon as we reaches the internet, okay, let me ask this first before explaining that part. Is the part till now clear to you? Like this whole process of getting in connection with the internet and then getting back the data. Is this process clear to all of you?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. So there is now one more part. You remember I told you that this domain name is the address. So when does this come into picture? As soon as our ISP contacts the internet, or let me just make it over here. Oh, what is this arrow? So, okay. So before reaching this internet part, we need to get the address from where we are going to get the data of the website. Now that comes with the domain name part. So our ISP contacts a DNS server. I'll just explain you what is a DNS server, but let me just first complete this DNS server. So your ISP contacts a DNS server with the domain name that you have provided. So it is now carrying this www.cbit.ac.in, and it sends it to the DNS server. DNS server, you can assume it to be a phone book, or let's say, uh, so how should I explain it to you? Are you guys familiar with the phone book? So previously, like before we, had smart devices, there were people who used to have phone books, which is just, a diary of containing name and the contact number along with it. So it's just basically a telephone directory, which is commonly called as a telephone address, or let's say you just map the name. So just to give you a little context, what those phone books used to be like is, let's say I have a friend one, and its contact number is, let's say, something like this. So before we had smartphones, we used to have the telephone lines or the landline phones that we call today. in those we had to manually type the numbers, right? So we cannot possibly remember all the numbers of all the people that we know. So to save those numbers, people used to carry a diary, or let's say a phone book, in which they used to map. Let's say I also have a friend too whose number is something like this. So these phone books were used to store the numbers. Similar to this, we have a DNS server which contains a file where, if let's say I type www.google.com, then it is mapped to a specific IP address. Specific IP address. This is not the correct IP, like this is, I am just giving you a demo of how the IP address can be. So inside of this DNS server, we have mapping of all the domain names alongside with their IP address of the web server from where we had to fetch the data. Similarly, as soon as we type www.cbit.ac.in, we are going to get some random IP, or let's say some IP on which the web server is hosted. Now this IP is the address of your web server. So this DNS server looks up for this domain name into the server and then gets back the address of your website. So this will send back the IP. So this is sending back your IP address. Your IP address is sent back to this ISP, and as soon as your ISP receives that IP address, it sends it to the internet. Internet then searches your web server with this IP address that we have, and then sends back whatever the response or whatever the data that this website have in its server. Is this part clear to all of you? Let me know in case you have any doubts. So just on an overview, how do we get a website? We type the address of the website or the domain in the browser. The browser contacts your router. Your router that then sends it to your ISP. Your ISP gets in touch with your DNS server. Your DNS server will return the corresponding IP address of the server from where it has to fetch the website. And then it goes to the internet, searches for that web server with the IP, connects to that web server, asks the data back, and then it sends the data via internet back to your web browser. This whole process just completes in nanoseconds. And also there is one utility which you can also check, World Internet Wires. So all the world is connected with internet, and there is this one map which is of, I'll just show a better one over here. Let's go back to this. Yeah. So there is this submarine cable map which connects all the world with the internet. So these are wired pipelines which are spread across the world inside of the oceans. Like these are real wires connecting the whole world together. And our request and response travels through these wires and then reaches our web browser. So here, when I say that it goes to the internet, take it as a pipeline or a take it as a pipeline or as a backbone. Then all I mean is this internet is these wired connections between different web servers around the world. Let me share this also over here in case any of you is interested. So this is the whole process of how the websites work and how they, land up to your web browser, how you are able to access them. There are multiple types of web servers, which again, as I told previously, it can either just contain some static content, or it can just contain your front end or your the whole application along with login details with your databases and everything. So is this part clear to all of you?
Yeah.
Okay. What did I just cut? Hmm, okay, yeah. Let's just cut this only. So coming back over here, now moving to the next topic, what is a full stack developer or a front end developer? So full stack is, I'll just write it over here. Full stack, then we need to see what is a front end developer and then what is a back end developer. So there are different types of software developers. There is one more as DevOps. So these are all different types of software engineers that you guys are, preparing for as a profession. So these are different types of software developers. I'll just map them over here. One, two, three, and four. Now there are many more as well. There are database engineers, there are database administrators. How do we delete this? Yeah. There are database administrators, there are other system engineers, system architects. There is a lot of things that comes under this umbrella of software developers, one of which is known as a full stack developer. Now, what is a full stack developer? A full stack developer is a person who can build a whole full-fledged application. Now, what are the components of that? That can be a front end plus a backend engineer. Now, in some places, people might also get confused between a front end, a backend, and a DevOps person all collectively together as a full stack developer. So this is also a very subjective terms in terms of the companies that uh, have these job opportunities. But in general, the person who knows front end development and backend development together, known as a full stack developer. Now, what is a front end and a backend? So front end basically means this part of the website, whatever comes to your web browser. So the way your website looks, the way the user interact with your website, that comes under the front end part. So front end just basically means whatever you see on your web browser when you type a domain name. So in this case, Airbnb, as we type it over here, we have this user interface which is here. So this is the front end of this application. Now, what is backend? Backend is something that happens behind the scenes, which the user is not aware about. So as soon as I click over here and I say sign up, I'll put, let's say, some number over here, uh, some number over here, and this is a like wrong number or dummy number, so it won't be going into the DB. But let's say I click on this continue. Now this number goes to the backend of this website, and then it generates a OTP and sends it to whatever the number I put. Then I put the OTP here, and then we can continue and make our account. Now this whole process of getting an account created, getting your OTP on your mobile phone, getting your details saved into the website's database, these kind of things are something that happens in the back end of the website, which you as a user, as you are interacting with the website, is not aware about how the OTP is getting generated, or let's say how your data is being stored. So these kind of things which happens behind the scene of a website, and which deals with more of the complexity of logics around your website, that comes under the backend part. Now to summarize this, front end is the UI, or let's say whatever you see on your web browser, on your browser as you type the website. Backend, on the other hand, is whatever happens behind the scenes as you interact with the website. This deals with more of the data and the logic part, whereas this front end deals with how your website look, how your websites looks, and the overall aesthetic, or let's say the feel of your website, is dependent on the front end part. Now, we also have a term as DevOps. So DevOps generally is, someone who deals with the infrastructure. So infrastructure is, just you can understand, is the whole way internet is able to access anything that is coming under as infrastructure. This contains the hardware provisioning, and even different types of database hardware provisioning and all. It deals with most of the infrastructure part and the security of your website. So infrastructure and security of the website. You might also consider DevOps as someone who deals with cloud solutions. So many of you might have heard about AWS or Google Cloud Platform, or even Microsoft Azure, which recently went down on Friday due to some vulnerabilities. I think you guys might be aware about, the Friday outrage of Microsoft. Azure is one of the services of Microsoft which deals with cloud solutions. So these kind of things, which is infrastructure, security, cloud solutions, and all the hardware provisioning and all, even networking, the thing that we discussed over here, networks. This in itself is a very big topic in software development, and this itself is a very complex subject. So this also networking comes under the part of the DevOps. Then backend person also deals with, where is the cursor? Yeah, it also deals with databases and in overall caches, and pretty good terms over there. So what is a full stack developer? A full stack is a person who knows how to build a front end and how to build a back end. So overall, it just gives you a complete picture of how you can make a whole application. Application is nothing but something with a front end and a back end setup. Now, front end is again the UI part, and back end is again your logics and your data storage and everything. So, an application, you can call it as a front end or a back end, or even just a single front end part. So, is this basic definitions of full stack developers, front end, back end, and DevOps clear to all of you?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll answer this question after I explain this whole full stack and software developer part, Madhuri. Then we'll come to this. Okay. So coming over here, we have full stack developers, we have front end, back end, and DevOps. Initially, many people start with as a full stack developer, and then later on in their career, they progress towards one of the things, which can be either leaning more towards the front end part, or either going to back end, or in working in DevOps. Now, how do we build this front end, back end, and DevOps? So there are many different tools and technologies. If we come over here, and where is the, so again, front end is the UI UX of a website, and back end is the functionalities like login, sign up, your data operations, and how your whole website's logic work. There are different technologies that we use in front end and in back end also. The one that we are going to use is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which builds your basic front end websites. So your basic front end websites, you can assume something like this one. So this content is coming from HTML. The way it is rendered over here in this website, like the picture is here, the small options, or let's say, what do you say, these radio buttons are here, and how this whole website is appearing to you is the work of CSS. And the way this content is dynamically changing as I change the text over here. Let's say I click on small, so it's getting smaller. If I click on large, it's getting larger. This whole logic and structural thing is done by CSS. So these three things we'll be covering in the module, along with React.js as one of the frameworks. So there are many different frameworks by which we can make front end. So this is Angular.js, then there is Vue, there is Tailwind CSS, there is React.js, then there is Bootstrap also. If I have to show you one example, so let's take the example of Bootstrap. This is a front-end technology, or let's say a front-end library, which you can integrate with your general HTML code, and then it just gives you pre-built containers, or let's say pre-built CSS components. So if I today want to recreate this website, and I want the text from here to here only, and this photo like this, I can also integrate Bootstrap's built-in terms, by which it will just render this without us putting too much effort into it. So these front-end frameworks and libraries are there to help us in creating better and intuitive UIs. Now the term intuitive UI is basically how your user behavior works. If you guys have used Blinkit, Zepto, or even Swiggy, Instamart, all the three applications have the same UI experience. You'll just first land up to the home page. They'll ask you a bunch of your numbers and all. Then you'll give them. Then you'll go to the home page of that website, or let's say the application. They have the same user behavior. You'll first click on the item that you want, then it will get incremented by counter one, and these things which the user on its own clicks. So there was this one term, intuitive behavior. So this is how your customer is behaving, or let's say how your user is going to behave on your website. For example, in this Airbnb, people come to this to book different kind of hotels or different kind of rooms and different kind of activities. So this is a very intuitive UI, as in I'll just look for one of the Airbnb bungalow, I'll come over here, I'll just check the price, I'll click on reserve. So this is an intuitive user behavior. So backend, sorry, the front end deals with more of how your user is behaving, how your website is looking in terms of its appearance, and how appealing it is for the user to stick on your website. This is the front end part, and then these libraries and frameworks help us in building those. For example, this whole website, Airbnb, was built on React.js in the initial phases, right? This Wikipedia, you can just come over here and click on inspect. This is your HTML code, which your browser turns from your frameworks. So your frameworks and libraries just are there to help you build better, fast, and good UIs. Example is again React.js. There is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which is just going to help us building basic front ends. And as we move forward into the front end part of the careers, then people are more inclined towards how they are going to build it intuitively and appeal in an appealing way. Then also there are backend frameworks, which again is very similar to the front end ways. So front end frameworks are there to build front end. Similarly, backend frameworks are there to build the backend of the websites. There are multiple technologies used. There is Node.js, which is based on JavaScript. There is Fastify.js, which is again another backend service of built on top of Node.js. Then there is Express.js. There is Spring Boot. So this backend is written in Java as a language. Then you have MongoDB, which is again a database in backend. Then there are multiple databases, SQL databases and NoSQL databases. If you guys want to deep down into SQL and NoSQL databases, you can just go over here and read. Again, this is something very high level. First, I think you should get familiarized with the front end part, and then you can slowly progress towards backend if you are looking to be a full stack developer. And if your goal is just to be a front end developer, then the front end technologies, which is HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React.js, which we are going to cover in this course, should be enough for you to get started into the front end industry. Then there is Django, which is again which uses Python as a language. Then there is Nest.js, which is again based on JavaScript, and it helps us in writing a backend code. Coming to where were we? Yeah, coming to here on DevOps part, we have different cloud solutions to get started with: AWS, Google Cloud, then there is Microsoft Azure. All these things are there for a DevOps person to get started. So is this description, or let's say the different frameworks, examples of the different frameworks for backend and front end, you guys understood? Okay. So let's come to the last, or let's say the most important part of this having, getting started with this course is the job opportunities that we can get with, learning all these technologies and everything. So software development, or let's say India as a economy is service based, right? So we are the people who provide services to other countries and other, industries. One of the biggest service, or let's say the one of the biggest strength of India as a service based country is its IT industry, which again contains your whole software developer, in ecosystem, your software solution architects and all. So there is a lot of job opportunities into it. One basic example is people get into this for the amount of money that people can generate out of the IT sector. You can also go on to LinkedIn as a website. I will suggest all of you to just, make your own profile onto this website for your future references. And this is again one site you might have heard about a lot, which is there to help you along with, getting started into your software development career. There is a lot of other websites also. There is one known as wellfound.com. This was previously something called as Angel. Then we also have Qubit. These websites you might, should start exploring after this course, as you will develop your skill set to get into the front end part and the Gen AI. Then you also have one more website, I'm forgetting its name. Yeah, Internshala, you might have heard about. This is again one good website to get your job opportunities. In your case, you guys are more inclined towards getting the industry experience as a fresher, so that comes under internships parts. So all these four websites and even more, like just let me know if you want me to share a whole list of these kind of websites from where you can land your internships and get started with your software development journey after completing this course. We will be covering mainly HTML, CSS. Let me write it over here. We'll be covering mainly HTML, CSS, JavaScript, then React.js, along with some Git and GitHub. Now, Git and GitHub is, you can think of them as another, tools to help you out in exposing your websites to the world, or in telling people or providing your portfolio as a software developer. And we'll also see deployments. Now, deployments is again one of the thing by which you make your websites and your work accessible to the people around the world. Let's say this Airbnb.com, this is deployed on this address. So everything that's hosted onto the internet, you use a term for it called deploy, or let's say deployments. We'll come to, the depth of all of these modules. But for now, just understand the basic difference between a front end, back end, and a DevOps person, and who is called as a full stack developer. So, is these things clear to all of you? Yes, Sohan, you have any kind of question?
Yeah, ma'am. So we've been told that our course is oriented towards Gen AI plus front-end development, right?
Yes.
So is it like we're using generative AI to help us with the front-end development, or is it like two separate things where we learn prompt engineering and stuff?
So Gen AI is again one kind. You can think of it as one kind of technology, which you will be learning how to integrate it into your front end applications, and make your front end applications more effective, or let's say with more functionalities.
Optimize.
Yes, not optimized, but with different kind of requirements. So if you have used chat gpt, so they also provide open apis of chat gpts to integrate with different kind of application. For example,
Yeah.
if you have used Notion, so there is one thing as Notion AI. I don't know if it's built on top of ChatGPT or not, but that Notion AI can also replicate it by integrating it with ChatGPT AI, ChatGPT APIs, right? So this integration part is where the Gen AI will help. This is again one of the skills you can add in your resume, that you know how to integrate Gen AI and how to use Gen AI in your day-to-day developments and in your applications.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, further, how long will we have the session still? Like, till what date? Is this like a 4 week program or an 8 week program or something like that?
I think it's almost around 30 sessions, or 30 to 32 sessions, I think.
Okay, and after that, we'll be having to work on a project, right?
Yes, yes, you'll be given a
So
project.
that project will be given by you. We don't have to come up with our own ideas. So
So,
whatever you give, we'll have to work on that.
so we'll provide a list of projects. You can choose your project on whichever you want to work, and then you'll work onto it and submit it at the end of that date.
Oh, okay. So each of the projects needs to be worked on by a single person, not like a group.
This I need to still confirm with the team, and that's there with the
Okay,
course.
okay. That's all right. Just let us know
Yeah, yeah,
by the
sure.
next session.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, ma'am. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anything else anyone want to ask? Then we'll move towards Madhuri's question. I'll wait for 1 minute if anyone has any other question regarding the whole software development part and everything that we covered today. Okay, so let's move towards this question, which is stating that is ISP different for everything? So ISP, yes, it is. It can be different for people residing in different areas. It can be same also. So let's say you have a roommate who have a Geo SIM who's using a Geo data pack. So its ISP is different than you who is using maybe Airtel data pack. So your ISP is different. It depends on how your mobile network is catching, or let's say connecting with your nearest ISP, internet service provider, in case of the data packs. And in case of a Wi-Fi connection, you have a dedicated ISP. So your ISP does not change in that case, because that's Wi-Fi is a wired connection till your home, and inside your home it gets wireless. So a wired connection is always a dedicated connection, and your data packs is wireless only. So you just get connected to the nearest tower of your network, and then it gets connected to your ISP. So I hope that is clear to you, Madhuri.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So just let me know, guys, if you have any kind of questions, and please make your accounts on LinkedIn, especially because that's how you're going to get different kind of job opportunities coming in your career. Many
Ma'am,
people.
can we also have a session where you explain what would make a LinkedIn account better and how we're supposed to use it, something like that?
Yes,
Because
for
right
sure.
now I do have a LinkedIn account, but it's not that professional either, or it is not that accessible to people who are willing to hire.
Yes, we can have a session dedicated to how we make our LinkedIn profile and our GitHub profile. You remember
Yeah.
I have mentioned Git and GitHub over here.
Yes,
So
yes. Mm.
GitHub is your public portfolio of your coding profile. So we can definitely have a session based on how you're going to get your GitHub better and your LinkedIn profile better, which two can combine and get you a better opportunity.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Um, Let me just get the attendance link for today. I'll also show how we are going to fill that up. I'll just share my screen in a moment after getting the link. Just give me a sec. Where is the link? Okay. So this is how your attendance form will look like. You have to come over here. You have to choose your name. Then you have to give the rating of the session. And in case you have any kind of comments for, let's say, in case you want any kind of change in how the way I teach, if it's, you want me to deep dive into it more, or you want me to get the pace a little bit more slower. So just add your comments onto here and submit it. Every day your attendance link will be similar to this. All you have to do is select your name, give the rating of how much you understood, or let's say the teaching behavior, and then you can add your comments if you have any and submit it. I'll share the attendance link at the end of each session when we would have covered the whole topics for that day. So guys, I've shared the attendance link. You can fill it up and let me know in case you have any kind of doubts or you want me to cover anything else, or the topics that we covered today you want me to re-explain it or deep dive into it. Just let me know.
Ma'am, also you've told we'll have MCQ tests for each module, right?
Yes.
So are like these modules day by day, or like once we finish a module in like 1 2 days we'll have MCQ test?
So each of the technology that we are going to cover in this course, let's say HTML, I will share the HTML quiz after we have completed the dedicated topics for that technology.
Okay.
So let's say we have completed HTML today, then after completing the whole HTML part, I'll share you the MCQ quiz link in which you will be, answering the questions. And then from that quiz session to the next session, we'll start the new module.
And these quiz marks will be evaluated in the overall thing also, no?
Yes, I think so. I still
Okay.
need to
So,
confirm this, but yeah.
okay, ma'am. So our entire grading system will be based on the quizzes, the project, and the attendance is like mandatory 60%, right?
Yes.
Okay. Apart from the project, we won't have to do anything in the end. With the project only, we'll finish the course.
Yes, for the certification, yes, it's required.
Okay, ma'am.
And also I'll be uploading the recording of the session and the resources that we have used for the session. For example, in this case, like in today's session, I'll be sharing this whole sheet in a I would mainly just structure this out and just share this to you along with the website links that we have shared in the chat box as the resources for this session. Similarly, I'll also be sharing this PPT and the slides that we have used. So for you guys to revisit and just understand them better in case you are not able to. So I hope all these things are clear. If you have any kind of other questions also, just let me know. Put it in the chat box. We can cover them. Meanwhile, you can fill your attendance form. And from tomorrow onwards, we'll start the basics of HTML and, just how we can tamper with different websites just for fun. Also, we'll be setting up an IDE called VS Code. So let me just share you a link of VS Code today only so that you can get it downloaded for tomorrow's session. So there is this IDE.
Ma'am, can we use any other VS Code also? I mean, not any other IDEs as well, like
Uh,
PyCharm.
yes, you can use any other IDs if you're comfortable with that. But I'll be following VS Code, so that's why I'm sharing VS Code over here. In case you are, already familiar with different IDs, you can use them. You can download this VS Code for tomorrow's session. Tomorrow, I'll also share a list of some basic extensions on VS Code. Now, these extensions are just, there to help us around with the code that we write and the way the code indentation works. So I'll share, I think, 5 to 7 extensions, which are, very basics for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript on VS Code. So, we can get started with the code syntax and the semantics onto the IDE. If you're using PyCharm or any other IDE, make sure you install the extensions provided in those IDEs for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for you to have, a better experience. And for those of you who have not made any LinkedIn profile, please go ahead and make your LinkedIn profile. We'll also have a session onto it. I'll add it into the course. Okay, guys, if you have any kind of doubts, please put it in the chat box or unmute yourself, or else I think we are done with today's session. We have covered the topics that we wanted to, and these are, the basics of how we are going to get started. So just let me know in case you have any doubts, or else you can fill your attendance form and drop off. I'm here on the call till 8:30. In case any of you have any kind of doubts, just let me know. If you don't have any kind of doubts and you have filled your attendance form, you can drop off the call. We'll connect tomorrow at the same time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone.